You ever find yourself apologizing for things that aren't even your fault? Like someone bumps into you at the grocery store, and somehow you're the one saying sorry. Or maybe you catch yourself laughing too loud, then instantly shrinking, scanning faces for disapproval. You tell yourself you're just being polite, just careful, just aware, but sometimes those just aren't just habits. They're survival tactics, leftovers from something deeper. A lot of us walk around with invisible scripts written years ago, scripts shaped by moments that hurt, confused, or scared us. But instead of obvious trauma, the kind that comes with sirens and headlines, this stuff hides in plain sight. It lives in the little things we do every day. That flinch when someone raises their voice. The need to check your messages 10 times before sending. That constant urge to be easy, to never make waves. What if I told you that those things might not be quirks? What if they're actually trauma responses? Let's talk about over-explaining. Ever find yourself stuck in a loop, trying to justify the tiniest mistake, even when no one's asked for an explanation? Like, sorry I'm late, there was traffic, and then my phone died, and I couldn't find parking, and I swear I left on time. You're talking to a friend who honestly didn't care, but your brain is acting like you're on trial. That's not just being thorough. That's a defense mechanism. Somewhere along the line, your nervous system learned that mistakes lead to punishment, judgment, or being misunderstood. So now, you explain and explain and explain, as if the more words you use, the safer you'll be. Or maybe you're always scanning the room, reading people's moods like you're a human weather radar. You know the energy of a room the second you walk in. You notice when someone's tone shifts by 1%. You can feel tension before it's even said out loud. It's a skill, sure, but it might also be hypervigilance, the brain's way of staying safe in environments where emotional storms could come out of nowhere. When home didn't always feel stable, when anger was unpredictable, your body learned to always be on guard. So now, even in safe spaces, that radar stays on, draining you quietly. You might think you're just bad at making decisions. But what if the indecisiveness isn't about options? It's about fear. Because in the past, maybe the wrong choice led to blame. Maybe someone made you feel stupid or selfish or like you didn't matter. So now, picking between two cereals in a store becomes a whole internal debate. What if people judge me for this? What if I regret it? What if it's not the right choice? Your brain is trying to protect you from that old shame. It's not indecision. It's a trauma echo. Let's talk about the word fine. That one-word lie we all know too well. Someone asks how you're doing, and you say, I'm fine, even when you're falling apart. Why? Because maybe in your world, being honest about pain didn't go well. Maybe it made people uncomfortable. Maybe it made them leave. So now, you've trained yourself to swallow it down, to smile through the ache. You become the strong one, the low-maintenance friend, the one who never asks for anything. But deep down, it's lonely. And it's not strength, it's survival. A response born from being let down when you needed support the most. Ever been terrified of conflict? I mean, actual fear, not just disliking arguments, but feeling your heart pound, hands sweat, stomach flip, just at the idea of confrontation. So instead of standing up for yourself, you shrink. You fold. You say it's okay when it's not. Because once upon a time, speaking up made things worse. Maybe you were punished. Maybe you were ignored. Maybe your needs were met with anger. So now, your brain says silence keeps you safe. But in keeping yourself safe, you also keep yourself small. And here's one that hits deep. Never asking for help. You're drowning, but you'll say you're floating. You take care of everyone else, but the second you need something, you freeze. Because somewhere in your past, needing people ended badly. Maybe they mocked you. Maybe they disappeared. Maybe you were told asking was weakness. So now, independence becomes your armor. But behind that armor, there's a tired person who wishes, just once, someone would say, I've got you. See, trauma isn't always a headline event. It's not always a car crash, or a war zone, or a loud, obvious wound. Sometimes it's quiet. It's 1,000 little paper cuts you learn to ignore. It's years of being told directly or indirectly that your feelings were too much, or your needs were too inconvenient. And now, your brain builds systems to keep you from ever feeling that way again. The wild part? These trauma responses often look like being a good person. You're kind. You're agreeable. You keep the peace. You handle things. But the cost? You disappear a little. You betray yourself a little. You carry emotional weights that were never yours to begin with. And the worst part? You might not even realize you're doing it. Because these behaviors have blended so deeply into your identity, it's hard to tell where coping ends and you begin. But here's the thing. Recognizing them is powerful. Naming them doesn't make you broken. It makes you aware. It gives you back the choice. Because if you can see a behavior as a response, not a personality flaw, you can start to choose something different. You can say, wait, maybe I'm not just indecisive. Maybe I'm scared. And in that pause, that tiny space of awareness, healing begins. Sometimes, the deepest trauma responses were the most convincing disguises. Let's say you're the funny one. The one who always has a joke, who can make anyone laugh, who turns every heavy moment into a punchline. People love being around you. But what they don't see is how often that humor is a shield. You learned early that making people laugh was safer than making them uncomfortable. That if you were entertaining, they wouldn't ask questions, wouldn't dig, wouldn't see the sadness in your eyes. So now, you make everything light, even when you're drowning. And they call you the life of the party. But they never see what happens when the party's over and the silence creeps back in. Or maybe you can't stop achieving. You crush goals. You're productive, ambitious, always busy. People admire your drive. But they don't know that your worth has been tied to what you do, not who you are. That somewhere in your story, love had conditions. Be useful, be successful, be impressive. So now, you don't know how to rest without guilt. Stillness feels like failure. Relaxing feels like danger. You're constantly trying to prove you're enough, even if no one's asking you to. There's also the numbness response. You're not sad, not angry, not happy. You're just blank, like watching life through foggy glass. You go through the motions, but nothing sticks. You tell yourself you're just tired, but deep down your brain has built walls. Because feeling was too dangerous. Feeling meant hurt. So now, your system dulls everything just to stay safe. You're not cold. You're protecting the most sensitive parts of yourself the only way you know how, by turning the volume down on everything. And then there's people pleasing. The word sounds soft, but the reality isn't. It's exhausting. You mold yourself into whatever people need. You say yes when you mean no. You swallow your own desires just to avoid disappointing anyone. At first glance, it looks like kindness, but it's actually fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of conflict. Fear of being unloved. You weren't taught that you could say no and still be accepted. You were taught love is earned by being good, agreeable, accommodating. So now, you disappear piece by piece, hoping someone will love the version of you that you've reshaped for their comfort. Let's talk about overworking. That constant need to fill every hour, every space with tasks. Productivity becomes your drug. You brag about not sleeping. You equate exhaustion with success. But the truth? Stillness scares you. Because when things get quiet, the feelings you've been outrunning start to catch up. And your brain, terrified of that, keeps you moving, keeps you busy, keeps you distracted from the grief, the fear, the memories that surface when you pause. Overworking isn't just ambition. It's avoidance dressed up in hustle. And then there's controlling everything. Every plan, every detail, every outcome. You have backups for your backups. People think you're just organized. But it's not about preference. It's about safety. Because chaos, unpredictability, they remind your brain of pain. Maybe you live in a house where the rules changed by the hour. Maybe your emotions weren't respected. Maybe you were blamed for things you couldn't control. So now, control feels like armor. Like the only way to breathe without fear. You might even push people away the second they get close. You tell yourself you're protecting them, or protecting yourself. But really, it's that intimacy feels like risk. Vulnerability feels like standing on a ledge. Because maybe in the past, love came with pain. Trust was shattered. Your openness was used against you. So now you ghost people. You joke your way out of deep moments. You pick fights just to create distance. And yet, at the same time, you crave closeness so badly it hurts. It's a brutal paradox. longing for connection but fearing the cost of it. And here's one that's hard to admit: jealousy. Not the loud, toxic kind, the quiet kind, the kind that whispers, "Why do they get to be happy when you see someone living with ease?" It's not because you're bitter, it's because you never knew peace like that. You see someone get loved gently, and it breaks your heart a little because a part of you didn't even know that kind of love was real. You've been surviving so long that thriving feels foreign. And so the envy isn't hate, it's grief. It's your nervous system mourning what it never had. What's wild is how many of these behaviors get praised. People admire your independence, your strength, your ambition, your sense of humor. No one sees the pain behind a performance. They say you're so strong. And you want to scream, "I had to be," because no one showed up, no one noticed, no one made it safe to fall apart. So now, being strong isn't a choice. It's the only option you believe you have. But here's something no one tells you. Survival strategies aren't meant to be permanent homes. They're emergency shelters. They kept you alive, but they're not meant to be where you live forever. And it's okay to outgrow them, to want more, to want peace instead of productivity, rest instead of perfection, connection instead of protection. The scariest part of healing isn't facing the past. It's letting go of the parts of yourself that were born to survive it. You might feel guilty for changing, for setting boundaries, for saying no, for asking for help. You might feel like you're betraying the person who got you through the worst. But you're not betraying them. You're honoring them. You're saying, "Thank you for getting me here. I've got it from here." Healing doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means giving yourself permission to live a different story now. But that shift is hard, especially when your trauma responses have become invisible, when they look like personality traits or even strengths. You start to wonder, if I let go of this, who am I? If I stop overachieving, will anyone still value me? If I stop saying yes to everything, will anyone still love me? If I stop pretending I'm fine, will anyone actually stay? But here's the truth. Trauma doesn't just affect how you feel. It rewires how you see. You might see love and assume betrayal. You might see stillness and assume danger. You might see joy and brace for loss. Your brain, trying to protect you, builds a distorted lens. And through that lens, you start making choices that keep the fear alive even when the threat is long gone. It's not your fault. It's your nervous system doing what it was trained to do. But you can retrain it. Slowly, gently, by noticing, by naming, by catching those moments when your body reacts like you're still in danger, and reminding yourself that you're not, that you're here, that you're safe, that the world is not what it was, that you are not who you were. And yeah, it's frustrating, because you'll start to see all the places where fear used to live in your body like a tenant that overstayed its lease. You'll recognize patterns you didn't even know you had, like how you always sit closest to the exit, how you never talk about your real feelings until someone else goes first, how you pretend to be chill, even when your chest feels like it's caving in. You'll start catching yourself mid-reaction, thinking, "Wait, this isn't me. This is fear wearing my face." And some people won't understand. They'll say, "Why are you changing?" They'll miss the version of you that made their life easier. The people pleaser, the overachiever, the one who never needed anything. And it'll hurt, because healing sometimes means losing relationships that only survived because you were performing. But losing those versions of connection makes space for the real thing, for the kind of love that doesn't require self-erasure, for the kind of friendships where you don't have to smile through pain, for the kind of presence where your silence isn't awkward, it's safe. Here's something wild. Your brain is plastic, not like a credit card, like neuroplasticity. That means it can change. Even if you've been stuck in these trauma responses for years, your brain can literally rewire. It won't happen in a day. It won't be linear. You'll have setbacks. You'll catch yourself people-pleasing again, overthinking a text, avoiding eye contact, staying quiet when you wanted to speak. And that's okay. Every time you notice it, name it, and choose differently. Even if only a little, you're laying new neural paths. You're giving your brain a map that says, this way is safe now. Sometimes healing doesn't look like big moments. It looks like tiny rebellions. Saying no without an explanation. Letting someone help you without apologizing. resting without earning it, asking for what you need even when your voice shakes, saying, I don't know, I changed my mind, that hurt me, I need space. These aren't signs of weakness. They're signs you're stepping out of survival and into living. And here's what no one tells you. Underneath every trauma response, there's a real need that went unmet. Behind perfectionism is the need to feel worthy. Behind people-pleasing is the need to feel loved. Behind numbing is the need to feel safe. Behind over-explaining is the need to be understood. Your responses aren't random. They're deeply intelligent strategies for navigating a world that once felt unsafe. So the goal isn't to shame those responses. It's to listen to them, to ask, what are you protecting me from? And is that danger still here? Because sometimes your trauma doesn't need to be fought. It needs to be heard. So maybe next time you catch yourself shrinking in a conversation, or saying sorry for no reason, or spiraling over a small mistake, you pause. You breathe. You whisper to yourself, this is a trauma response. I don't have to follow it. And little by little, you stop living from your past and start building from your present. You're not broken. You're adapting. You're not too sensitive. You learn to notice. You're not overreacting. You're carrying history, and you're not alone.